Welcome to the Heartbreak Chronicles, where every story is a raw reflection of life. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned, give us a like to show your support, and share this episode with your friends. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Now, let's dive into today's story. My name is Emma White. I am 49 years old and a mother of three. How could I have been so naive to think that my behavior wouldn't ruin everything? Yes, I cheated on my husband, and I was found out. My husband Oliver's reaction was unexpected and worse than I expected. Oliver and I went to college together and got married right after graduation. Our youngest son, Jack, is now a sophomore at Florida State University. His brother Ryan graduated from Duke University with a degree in computer science 2 years ago and is doing well working for a mid-sized software company in California. Our middle child, Sarah, got married last year and has settled in the suburbs of New York City with her new husband. Her husband got a job on Wall Street. We live in a suburb of Atlanta, and as the kids left one by one, I began to feel a strong sense of empty nest syndrome. I think I'm going through some sort of midlife crisis too. Anyway, I made a huge mistake and got caught. Oliver has been a wonderful husband and father. Our sex life is harmonious, and he always treats me like a lady. I love him with all my heart. He never gave me any reason to doubt his loyalty. Oliver owns his own successful computer services company. His company provides technical support to some fairly large businesses in the Atlanta area. We travel a lot, both on vacation and on business. Oliver always takes me along on business trips whenever possible. But after I started working at the library, it became less likely that I would travel with him. I thought I looked ordinary until Oliver noticed me. He made me feel special. I'm 5 feet 6 inches and weigh about 140 pounds, which is about 15 pounds heavier than when I was in college. Even though I feel fat, Oliver always says I'm beautiful. He often said he didn't find the skinny models attractive at all. Oliver has stayed in great shape all these years. He's a handsome man, though not in the movie star class. But middle-aged women, and sometimes even young women, would always look at him a little more. A few months ago, I overlooked his annual medical report. Surprisingly, he weighs a pound less than he did when he was in college. He's 6 feet 1 inch and in great shape. He goes to the gym 4 times a week and takes care of all the landscaping around our house. He's also very good at fixing things that are broken around the house. He always had a smile on his face, and it seemed to get bigger every time he saw me. Looking back on my behavior, I don't know what I was thinking. Of course, that's just the thrill of having other men pay attention to me and compliment me on my beauty. This excitement was also intensified by the sense of back virtue. I never thought I'd be found out. Besides, I know it's just a momentary novelty that will be over in a few months. I can't shake the thought. When I look in the mirror, all I see is extra weight. Although Oliver never said anything about my weight, it seriously affected my self-esteem. I've tried diet after diet, and a few times I did lose 5 to 10 pounds. But once you stop dieting, the weight comes back. Nevertheless, I'm not completely dissatisfied with myself. I have almost no wrinkles on my face, and I dye my hair to cover the gray. One thing I'm proud to say is that I don't have a beer belly like many women my age with children. Oliver and I started dating my junior year of college. He just broke up with a girlfriend named Olivia. Olivia is much prettier than I am. She is 5 feet 9 inches tall with blonde hair and an enviable figure. Her breasts were almost twice the size of mine, and she had the kind of long-legged beauty that attracted all the men's attention every time she walked into a room. When I started dating Oliver, I didn't know anything about Olivia. All Oliver said was that their breakup was sad for both parties. He also said that while Olivia was funny, it was too dramatic for him. Oliver told me that they fought because Olivia wanted him to go skiing with her for the weekend. He tried to explain to her that he had a paper to finish, which was worth 90% of his final grade. Olivia went by herself and shared a room with an ex-boyfriend. Oliver didn't know if she'd had sex with the ex-boyfriend, but just sharing a room was more than he was comfortable with, so he broke up with her. As we continued to date, I came to realize that Olivia hadn't let go of Oliver. She often appears in the same restaurants or theaters. Her intentions towards Oliver couldn't have been more obvious, and she was on the verge of stripping off her clothes and jumping on him. I was mad with jealousy and soon began to hate her. And she hates me. Oliver keeps telling me I'm 1,000 times better than Olivia. But somehow, deep down, I didn't really seem to believe it. I'm afraid that one day he's going to snap out of it, realize how much prettier Olivia is than me, and dump me. Olivia's pursuit of Oliver continued right up until our wedding day, and it didn't even stop afterward. This was after Oliver snapped at her and told her in no uncertain terms to leave us alone, and he said he'd never come back to her. Even so, she kept trying. About a year after we were married, I read in the newspaper that Olivia had married a man from a very prestigious family in Atlanta. Their wedding was on the social media pages, and from what I've read, he comes from a very wealthy family. Anyway, we haven't heard or seen Olivia since. For some reason, knowing that Olivia was married made me feel really secure in my marriage. About a month after Jack went back to Florida State University for his sophomore year, I was feeling depressed and lonely. Oliver went on a business trip, and I didn't go with him because it was only a 2-day trip and there were meetings scheduled for almost every minute. In addition, Oliver's business is expanding, and he is trying to find the right person to fill the new position. This means that he works long hours and sometimes overtime on weekends. I was getting frustrated. Then one morning, while reading the newspaper, I noticed that the local library was looking for volunteers. I majored in English in college and always enjoyed going to the library. It's a special thing that all 3 of my kids and I love to do. We go to the library a lot. Sometimes I'll prepare lunch for all of us and then go to the local branch. We borrowed books and went to the park across the street. We'll be reading while we eat lunch. All 3 of my children have developed a love of reading, which I believe has helped them succeed in school. When I arrived at the library, I was nervous. I haven't worked since our first child was born. I was filled with insecurity, sure they wouldn't want me to volunteer. To my surprise, Ms. Emily Broom is still the librarian. I knew her from many visits, and she warmly welcomed me as part of her volunteer team. Emily asked me to work with George Mills, a 23-year-old graduate student, working on his PhD in library science. I'm glad we were grouped together. George reminds me of a young Oliver. He's a good-looking young man, not as handsome as Oliver, but attractive nonetheless. However, George does have a gentlemanly demeanor and a friendly smile. He was about 10 pounds overweight or so. George wasn't as fit as Oliver either, which made me feel more comfortable around him. He also treated me like a princess. Oliver was very happy when he found out I was volunteering and was very supportive. I think I was attracted to George because the other 2 student volunteers didn't take their work seriously. It's just part of their coursework. George also knows that I'm trying to adjust to having all the kids away from home. He was very considerate. He always complimented me, which made working with him a pleasure. I never complained if they asked me to stay on duty a few more days. However, I sincerely wish that I had never agreed to work overtime. This is because working at night seems to make all the difference. It all started with harmless jokes and flirting. This went on for weeks. Then one night, when George and I were on the 2nd floor cleaning out the lockers, he kissed me. The kiss shocked me, but at the same time it turned me on. I just stared at him, and then he kissed me again. This time I kissed him back. We made out for a while, then it was time to go home. I feel terrible about myself, but at the same time I feel beautiful. Over the next few weeks, when we were working at night, we'd sneak over to the lockers and make out. At first it was just kissing and caressing. Then one night, he unbuttoned my shirt and lifted up my bra. I wet my pants on the spot. A few days later, he slipped his hand under my skirt and then into my panties. It felt so good to feel his fingers inside me. I had several orgasms. I want to go further now, but we can't go to his apartment because he shares it with 2 other people. I told him my husband was traveling next week and he could come to my house. A week later, Oliver left on a business trip and I snuck George into our house. I took him to the guest room. I would never have sex with him in my marital bed. In my mind, that's not really betraying Oliver. God, I'm such an idiot. I screwed everything up. Our first time wasn't as good as I'd hoped. George wasn't an experienced lover, and I was too nervous. The only thing I did right was to insist that George wear a condom. Even though I thought I was too old to have children, I didn't want to take any chances. Oliver had a vasectomy after Michael was born. Like I said, the first time wasn't so great, but the thrill is exciting. We clumsily undressed each other, and with little foreplay, George went right into me, thrusting with all his might. At that point, I was so wet from the excitement of what I was doing that it didn't matter. When he's done, he puts on his clothes and leaves. When Oliver returned from his business trip, I couldn't believe how turned on I'd become by sex with George. I practically pounced on Oliver as soon as he walked through the door. He was surprised that I was so sexually aroused. After we made love, he held me for hours, telling me about his trip. I love him so much. How could I betray him so completely? But in my heart, I justified it by saying that having sex with George made me love my husband more. How irrational of me. For the next 3 months, every time Oliver traveled on business, I had sex with George. We made love every day except the last. I don't want to risk my husband coming back early and crashing. Now I realize that sex with George only felt good because it was taboo. I don't care about George at all. The truth is, I'm just using him to fulfill my own selfish desires. However, every time Oliver came home, our sex life was incredibly hot. But it all came crashing down that Tuesday afternoon. Oliver had planned a 3-day business trip, Monday through Wednesday. I decided that Tuesday would be my last time with George. Sex was no longer exciting, and the guilt was too much for me to bear. Anyway, I invited George to come over on Tuesday. When he arrived, we went to the guest room. When George was finished, I sat there and watched him. "George," I said, "this is the last time. I can't do this anymore." "Why?" He almost cried out. "I'm in love with you." It shocked me and scared the hell out of me. I know I have to be very careful with this. "George," I said calmly, taking his face in my hands, "this is not love. You're just momentarily obsessed. The truth is, I'm old enough to be your mother. I have no doubt that in a month or two you'll be bored and want to dump me, and I won't blame you. It's best to end the relationship now." George tried to say something, but I covered his mouth with my hand. "Please, George, let's just get dressed and go our separate ways. I hope we can still be friends." George sat there, numb, but still erect. I know he wants more, but I won't give it to him. What happened next broke me. There's a knock on the door, it opens, and Oliver's standing there. "Emma," he said painfully, sadness in his eyes. "When you're done, I want to talk to you." I screamed the first thing that popped into my head, which was stupid. "Oliver, it's not what you see." George's face went pale, and his lower body shriveled up instantly. But I don't care anymore. He quickly gathered his clothes and rushed out the front door. He jumped into his pants as he hurried down the path to the front yard. I fought back the tears and organized myself. I found Oliver sitting at a table in the dining room. His face was red, and I knew he must be furious. As I sat down, I realized that there were some photographs scattered on the table. Those are pictures of George and I having sex in the guest room. Then I remembered that Oliver had been fixing the overhead light in the bedroom months ago. He must have had a camera in the room at that point. "Oliver, Oliver, please." "I'm sorry," I sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I'm very, very sorry. I love you with all my heart. You have a funny way of showing it." That's all he said. The pain in his voice pierced my heart like a knife. Then he asked me why, and my mind was racing 1,000 miles an hour. Why would I betray Oliver? Until that moment, I hadn't really taken the time to think about it. Then I realized that I was just a stupid, middle-aged woman who felt like she was missing out on something in life. I think it's called a midlife crisis. God, I hate myself. Why, Emma? After all these years, why? He asked, tears in his eyes. I I don't really have a good reason, I stammered. Now that the kids are gone, I've been depressed. I guess I just wanted to add a little excitement to my life. I've been loyal all these years, but I just felt like I needed something extra to make sure I was still attractive. Can you forgive me? This will never happen again. Please, Oliver, you must give me another chance. I broke down and cried pitifully for several minutes. Oliver just keeps looking at me. Tears streamed down his cheeks. It certainly made me feel worse. I'm sure I'm going to lose the love of my life because of my selfish behavior. I was in a panic. I didn't know what to do. Do you know how angry I was when I found out about this? Oliver asked calmly. All I could do was shake my head. I was so angry that I seriously considered killing you and your lover. Oliver's eyes are locked on me. I buried my head in my hands and cried hysterically. Oliver didn't try to comfort me. He just watched and waited for me to calm down so he could continue the conversation. After I set up the camera, I felt guilty. I haven't checked them. In fact, I forgot about them on this trip. When I thought of it, I downloaded the video from my computer to a flash drive. I'm pretty sure I'll look at it and find nothing. I felt like a fool at the time. Well, I am a fool. But I'm a fool because I have no idea what my wife is doing. Please, please forgive me, Oliver. I sobbed, but he ignored my pleas and continued. When I opened the flash drive on the plane, I was so angry I almost pulled the armrest out of my seat. I ended up stopping because the handrail was starting to come loose. I was planning to book a flight home as soon as I landed, but my client was waiting for me at the airport, and I knew he had a serious problem, so I couldn't leave him behind. Oliver lowered his head, trying to control his breathing, which became labored. I'm afraid he might have a heart attack. Finally, he took a deep breath and continued. I work 15 to 16 hours a day, and when I'm alone in my hotel room, I spend the rest of my time thinking about what to do. I hardly slept, but at least I decided not to hurt anyone. So many ideas flashed through my head. I got dizzy. I decided I had to face you and hear what you had to say. I nodded, tears still streaming down my face. I guess the first and most important question I need to ask is, do you love this guy? Absolutely no love. I practically shouted. And what does he mean to you? He's just a friend who's friendly to me, I said in a barely audible voice. I'm so depressed. I feel like no one will ever love me. This seems to have shocked Oliver. Are you saying I mistreated you? No, 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 not at all, I said in a panic. You've been so kind and loving. I'm just feeling sorry for myself. What I did was stupid and selfish. You were so busy with your business that you stopped taking me on business trips and telling me what you were doing. I feel like I'm getting old and you're getting tired of me. Please, Oliver, forgive me. I just need someone to want me. It just makes me feel young and exciting. I'm such a total douche. Oliver's face seemed a little white as he looked out the window. He was silent for a long time. Finally, he looked back at me with a sadness on his face that made me want to die. I'll have to think about it, he said as he stood up and turned toward the door. I don't know if I can stay married to you. I have to figure it out for myself. Where are you going? I asked, almost panicking as I watched him walk toward the door. I'm going to our cabin on the lake. When are you coming back? I asked, even though I was afraid to hear the answer. When I figure out what I want to do, he said and closed the door. The next 3 days were the hardest of my life, wondering if my husband, the one I loved more than life, would ever return. But I try to keep myself busy. The first thing I did was quit my job as a library volunteer. I spend my time cleaning the house. I thoroughly cleaned room after room. I even cleaned the attic and basement. We've accumulated so much stuff over the years that neither of us has ever used. I carried box after box to the curb. On the third day, I went out to buy some groceries. When I came back, I saw Oliver's car parked in the driveway. My mood was instantly high, but then hit rock bottom because I didn't know if he was going to come back and ask for a divorce. I sat in the car for a full 5 minutes trying to work up the courage to go inside. Finally, I took the groceries into the kitchen and put them away. I found Oliver sitting at a table in the dining room. My heart sank once again as the pictures showing my infidelity were scattered around him again. I started crying because at that moment I felt like my marriage was over. I sat down slowly, waiting for the bad news. Oliver looked up at me and sighed. There are still things I can't figure out, he said. I must say, I'm leaning heavily in favor of a straight divorce. Then I started thinking about our kids and how it would affect them, and the fact that I'd neglected you for work made me feel guilty. Nevertheless, none of this is a reason for you to betray me. I started to tell Oliver how much I loved him, how sorry I was, but he held up his hand and I fell silent. I wish you'd come and told me how you felt, Oliver said, tears streaming down his cheeks. I know we could have solved all our problems, but you didn't do it. You chose to betray me instead. Tears were streaming down my face now, and I was trying to stifle the sobs that were about to erupt. The pained look on Oliver's face was killing me. I found it hard to breathe. You said you felt unloved, so you slept with a young guy. It makes you feel younger. Adds a little excitement to your life. Oliver has a strange look on his face. I know it's stupid and selfish, but it's the truth. George means nothing to me. You're the only man I've ever loved. When a spouse cheats on his or her spouse, the pain caused is as great as if the spouse had died. Oliver paused and looked out the window. When he looked back at me, there was no expression on his face. Whether it is a man or a woman who cheats on his or her spouse, the betrayed spouse suffers immensely. However, I believe that men have suffered more. In both cases, trust was shattered. It's more important for men than for women. I never wanted to hurt you, I said weakly. And yet you did it, he said without emotion. But let me explain why your betrayal hit me so hard. When a woman has a child, she never doubts that she is its mother. But when a man has a child with a woman, he can never be 100% sure that the child is his. A loving husband can only believe by trust that the child is his. Now I feel like I have no choice. I'm going to ask the kids to take a DNA test. I understand why you did it, I pleaded. But please don't tell the kids why you did it. It's going to break them and me. Oliver looked at me with annoyance and anger. Do you really think I would hurt the children? Even if it turns out that one or all of them aren't mine, I'll still treat them like my own. No, I'll tell them I'm doing genealogical research on our family. Though you have every reason to think the worst of me, I said with some irritation. But I assure you, those children are yours. But I totally understand why you want to be sure. Once you've confirmed that the children are yours, are you going to get a divorce at that point? I thought about just sending you the divorce papers and moving out, Oliver said, looking around the room. He looked completely lost. It breaks my heart to see him like this. I've now decided that Oliver is going to leave me. We sat in silence, and I began to feel sick. You want a little excitement in your life? He said calmly, his eyes falling on the table. Then he looked up at me. What about me? I've never betrayed you. Am I not allowed to have a little something extra in my life? Shouldn't I know that someone desires me? Am I not allowed to add a little excitement to my life? These questions caught me off guard. What's Oliver suggesting? What do you mean? I finally asked. You decide you want to add a little excitement to your life, so you go out and find a lover. From what I found out, the affair had been going on for at least 3 months. He paused and looked at me. The pain in his eyes sends physical pain through me, but I still don't understand what Oliver is trying to say. So all I could do was nod. Do you want to keep seeing this guy? I shook my head vigorously. No, I'll never see him again. Do you want another lover? I shook my head again. No, never. I know you don't believe me, but I don't want to lose you. Oliver sat there for several minutes, not saying a word, picking up picture after picture and looking at them. Every time he looks at one, I want to die. Then he swept the photo into the wastepaper basket under the table that I hadn't noticed. Emma, in spite of what you've done, I still love you. However, if we're going to save our marriage, I think it's only fair that I should have a 3-month affair as well. No, I don't think that's a good idea, I said firmly. In that case, I don't see any other way but to get a divorce. He pulled a stack of papers out of his briefcase. I had the divorce attorney draw up the papers. We'll split all the assets equally, except my company. I'll give you $400,000 as compensation for any claims you may have against the company. You can keep the house, but you'll have to pay me half the equity in the property. If you don't want to keep the house, then we'll sell it and split the proceeds. If you refuse my offer, I'll fight you in court. I would list the grounds for divorce as adultery. If you try to deny this to our parents or children, I'll show them the pictures. I don't want a divorce, I almost whispered. You can have a lover for 3 months. I started crying again, but I couldn't say no. I was ashamed and embarrassed that those pictures might get out, but I was more afraid of losing Oliver. All I could do was nod. Oliver pulled out another piece of paper, and as I read it, I realized it was an agreement that allowed him to have an ongoing affair. I must admit I agree with this. I swallowed hard and signed. How is this going to go? I asked, trembling. Once you find your lover, are you going to bring her here? Oliver nodded. Yes, I'll bring her here. We'll use the same guest room you used, and you can take our picture if you want. I shook my head violently and blurted out, No, I don't want to do that. Oliver shrugged. Oh, I found a lover. You used to know her. Her name was Olivia Holland. Then her last name was Smythe. She's now divorced and very willing to participate. No, I screamed. Anyone but her. Oliver shook his head slowly. I didn't choose your lover, so you can't choose mine. I'm devastated that he chose Olivia, but unless I want a divorce, I have no choice. After much crying and pleading, I had no choice but to agree. A week later, Oliver told me Olivia was coming on their first date. He told me I could choose to stay or go. There's no way in hell I'm staying in this house while Olivia's here. I got dressed as quickly as I could, gathered my things, and headed for the front door. But when I walked out, Olivia was on the front path. She's more beautiful than I remember. I kept my head down, but when Olivia passed by, I could see her face. She just smiled at me like the Cheshire Cat and proceeded to walk into the house. It's more painful than someone stabbing me in the heart. What's worse, I have to put up with her for 3 months. And when the 3 months are up, I can only hope that Oliver will still choose me. I was in so much pain that I began to cry uncontrollably. I'm in hell, and it's a hell of my own making. For the next few weeks, it was like years. Every time Olivia visits, I leave the house, filled with fear and jealousy. I keep picturing Oliver and Olivia together, and it's almost driving me crazy. I'm starting to realize that this is probably how Oliver felt when he found out I was cheating on him. Guilt and regret weigh me down. I try to improve myself in various ways. I started working out, hoping to get back to my youthful figure. I read books on how to save a marriage and even considered seeing a psychiatrist. But most of all, I try to be the kind of wife Oliver always wanted me to be. When Oliver wasn't with Olivia, our relationship got weird. Sometimes he's cold to me, sometimes he's gentle. I didn't know how to interpret his behavior, which made me feel even more uneasy. Finally, the 3 months are coming to an end. I'm both looking forward to and dreading this day. I knew it would be Oliver's time to make a final decision, to stay with me, to choose Olivia, or to simply end the marriage. The night before our last date, Oliver came to talk to me. His expression was serious, and my heart raced. "Emma," he spoke, a hint of emotion in his voice that I couldn't recognize. It hasn't been an easy 3 months for either of us. I think we all learned a lot about ourselves and our relationships. I held my breath, waiting for his next words. I knew that what he said next would determine our future. "I love you," he continued, and I felt a glimmer of hope. But love is not always enough. We need trust, we need respect, we need honesty. We both made mistakes, we both hurt each other. I nodded, tears welling up in my eyes. "I know, Oliver. I'm really sorry. I'd do anything to save our marriage." Oliver took a deep breath. "Me too. But we can't just go back to the way things were. We need to rebuild. We need to learn how to love and trust again. It won't be easy, and it won't be fast. But if we're all willing to work hard, I believe we can do it." I felt a sense of relief and determination at the same time. "I do, Oliver. I'll do anything." "That's good," he said, smiling for the first time. "Starting tomorrow, we begin our rebuilding journey. It means we have to be honest, we have to communicate, we have to support each other. It also means letting go of the past and focusing on the future. Are you ready?" I nodded my head, tears finally streaming down my face. "I'm ready. Thanks for giving us a chance, Oliver. I promise I won't let you down." That night, we slept together, and although we didn't have intimate contact, I felt a warmth and hope that I hadn't felt in a long time. I know there's a long, hard road ahead, but as long as I have Oliver by my side, I have the courage to face it all. The next morning, when I woke up, I realized Oliver was already up. I found him in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. I felt a warmth in my heart when I saw this scene. "Good morning," I whispered. Oliver turned to me and smiled. "Good morning, Emma. Come on, let's have breakfast and talk." We sat down and enjoyed a simple but delicious breakfast prepared by Oliver. After eating, Oliver takes a deep breath and starts talking. "Emma, we've all been through a lot. We've all made mistakes, we've all hurt each other. But I believe our love is strong enough to get through this." I nodded, feeling the tears begin to pool in my eyes again. Oliver continued, "But we need to set some rules, some boundaries, to make sure we don't make the same mistakes again. First of all, we need absolute honesty. Whatever the problem is, We need to talk to each other instead of seeking outside comfort. I agree completely, I said eagerly. I promise from now on, I'll be completely honest with you. Secondly, Oliver said, we need more time together. I know my work takes up too much of my time, and that's my fault. From now on, I'm going to include you more in my life, including my work. I felt a surge of elation. This is exactly what I've been longing for. Third, Oliver continued, we need to rebuild trust. It takes time. It takes patience. We all need to work on that. I reached out and took Oliver's hand. I'd give anything to rebuild your trust in me, Oliver. I know it won't be easy, but there's nothing more important to me. Oliver squeezed my hand gently. I know, Emma. I'll work on that too. We're all in this together. And so we began our journey of reconstruction. Each day is full of challenges, but also full of hope. We began to communicate more, to share our feelings, our fears, our hopes. We attended marriage counseling together to learn how to communicate better and how to deal with our problems. Slowly, we began to rediscover the qualities in each other that made us fall in love. I see Oliver trying to be more considerate and attentive to my needs. I've also tried to be a better partner, more supportive, more understanding. Of course, the process is not always smooth. Sometimes we fight, sometimes we get frustrated, but every time we get through one, our relationship gets stronger. 3 months later, on our anniversary, Oliver surprised me. He took me to the place where we had our first date, the little restaurant we both liked. When we sat down, Oliver pulled out a small box. Emma, he said, tears glistening in his eyes. Over the past few months, I've seen how hard you've worked, how much you've changed. I'm also trying to change myself. We've been through so much, but our love is still there. I'd like to repropose to you, not as someone who's perfect, but as someone who's willing to keep trying and keep growing. Will you be my wife again? I cried, but this time they were happy tears. Yes, Oliver, I'm willing. I always will. When Oliver put the ring on my hand, I felt like our love had been reborn. We are no longer the same naive young people we were when we experienced the ups and downs of life. But right now, we're stronger and more appreciative of each other than ever before. I know there is a long road ahead of us and we may have setbacks, but as long as we continue to support each other and understand each other, I believe we can overcome any difficulties. That's my story. A story of betrayal, regret, forgiveness, and rebirth. I hope that by sharing this story, I can help others realize that even in the darkest of times, with love and determination, there is always hope. Marriage takes constant work, constant choosing of each other. But it's all worth it when you find someone who's willing to work with you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.